Welcome back to the dojo, everybody. Come on in, take off your shoes, and take a seat on the mat. We have a special guest, a guy that is near and dear to my heart. Um, and Josh, welcome to the dojo, man.
Appreciate it, man. How you doing?
Doing well, man. It's about time I got you on. We tried to do this before, and then my setup here didn't didn't work out too good for us. So
Yeah, scheduling and we bounce back and forth. Yeah.
yeah, you're supposed to be the first guy on the
Hey, we
podcast.
tried, man. We tried. It didn't go as planned. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah. So why don't you give us a little rundown of who you are and where you're from and what you do?
All right. I'm Josh. I'm on the Instagram as a non-typical and they'll link to a lot of people through that way. Man, I'm just another Michigan hunter struggling to make it through. Haven't been hunting that long, less than 10 years, but I've done all right in the past couple of years, knocked down a couple nice deer and man, I'm just trying to make it through my season being successful, just finding any little bit of success we can here.
Yeah,
That's all I'm
you
doing.
sound a little too humble there, man.
I'm a little,
Josh is a straight killer, and he does things a different way, man. You're definitely a public land grinder. You put in more work than anybody I know, and I think that's what a lot of people are drawn to, man, is that work ethic that you have and that grind that you put in out there, man.
yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what it takes, especially here, you know, um, especially with, I lack a lot of knowledge, a lot of time I've lost, just not growing up hunting. I didn't grow up hunting. I grew up in the city. I'm just outside Detroit. So there's not a lot of opportunity here. Um, Especially not a lot of opportunity of good deer on public land, which is primarily all I hunt. So, I mean, that's kind of where we're at, man. We're just trying to grind. We're driving hours and hours trying to get on good deer, and when we get on them, we're trying to lay them down.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to talk about where you're at, but you're driving a couple hours each time you go, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I was just out scouting yesterday. It was about 2.5 hours away.
Yeah, and then you're typically staying overnight in your truck and stuff like that as well, right?
Yeah, the truck camper has kind of evolved to be a little bit more comfortable over the past couple years. Yeah,
Man,
yeah,
that thing is so pimp, man. I love that thing. I thought I had a
yeah.
good setup until even the guy that I just talked to, this Ryan Snow and you guys made me look like a clown, man. I got to step up my truck camper game.
I'm trying to evolve mine, man. I need a little bit more comfort.
I can't keep up, man. I just can't do it. So,
Yeah, me and Matt linked going out to the Mobile Hunters Expo. And it started raining, man. We were just secluded in the back of those pickup trucks for a couple hours.
heck yeah,
Oh, night's over.
mine leaked that night too, out of nowhere. I never had a leak until that night.
Yeah, my feet were a little wet when I woke up.
That's funny, man. That's so good. So we did let's do a little recap of the season this year, man.
Okay.
You did end up taking a good buck.
I did. Yeah, I took a nice Michigan 9 pointer on October 8th. It was kind of bittersweet for me. There was a couple really good bucks that I was glassing all summer long, kind of had them figured out. Thought I knew exactly where they were going. And then on October 7th, one of them got laid down on a food plot just across the road from the public that I was hunting. And that was kind of bittersweet. But then the next day I got in the stand, took a little reel of the tree stand, setting everything up. And then Matt actually left a comment and said, "Oh, I feel it for you tonight," or something along those lines. And then early in the afternoon, got it done. Um, and then the rest of the season was a little bit of a struggle. It was a little bit of a grind. Didn't get another one down, but ground it out, made it work.
Yeah, you were running into some stuff that you typically don't run into, right? I mean,
Yeah, I ran into a lot of pressure this year. Um, it foiled me out of a couple good spots. Usually, I don't run into a ton of pressure. Usually, I feel like I'm in the right places to get away from people. And I think over the past couple of years, people are starting to figure things out. Um, People are starting to watch. I'm noticing people are starting to watch. People start to watch where you're at, what you're doing, just as a hunter. So I think that that's playing a little bit of a role. Uh, but I think overall, you can call it good, you can call it bad. People are starting to get in the right places, man. People are starting to get in these places where they can get a shot and an opportunity at a good deer.
What kind of terrain do you typically like gravitate to?
What kind of train? What do you mean?
Terrain like are you
Oh,
hunting big woods? You
oh,
hunting
I'm hunting swamps, man.
yeah.
I'm in the swamps. I'm looking for the marsh. I'm looking for anywhere a deer can hide. So whether that's a high spot uh, in a marsh, which is primarily what I'm looking for. Uh, we tried some hills this year. I hunt some coastal marsh along the Great Lakes. I threw a couple sits at this year. I actually threw quite a bit of sits this year, which was interesting. Um, the hills kind of threw me off. That was a whole new experience. We did that Mobile Hunters Challenge.
Yeah.
Matt was supposed to be a part of with us. You know, he ditched us. That's okay though. Worked out for the best. Um, but yeah, that was we got into some hills, got onto some good sign there. Got eyes on deer, but didn't take anything, didn't make anything happen. And then me and Matt actually went out to Indiana, and I don't really even know what to call that kind of terrain that we were hunting a couple days. It was kind of a mix of stuff, but it was interesting.
Yeah,
I'll say.
ag country with I don't know what 20-foot wide tractor trails throughout the
Tractor
whole thing.
trails.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then ever since I think after you left, I was driving down to southern Indiana to try a couple of different pieces of land, and I was listening to a podcast, and it's kind of what I do when I drive. I'll throw on a podcast and see kind of knowledge I can gather. I turned on Before the Echo with
Yep.
Josh Telker, I think is his name, and he was talking about the Indiana Public Land Challenge a couple of years ago, and they mentioned the damn tractor trails that they're going through all the public land. And I was like, wow, it was no matter where I went. I think we went to like 5 or 6 pieces of the game areas, and then I
Yep.
started to realize if I was going to do this all over again, you can get this time back because I don't get a ton of time off work. If I was going to do it all over again, I'd go right for the national forest down there. Hoosier National Forest.
Yep.
Big tracts of land and, try to break it down that way to get away from all that pressure.
Yeah, the pressure was insane. We're talking like 200 to 250 guys signed in every
Oh,
single
yeah.
day.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. I mean, the one morning we were there like 5 a.m. and there was 95 people already on the property. It's like,
And those are just deer hunters. Later on, then you have small game hunters coming in too. So
oh yeah,
you're 300, 350 people each day.
oh people, oh yeah. And I couldn't believe it. I went to the DNR office and I was like, can I see the logbooks from yesterday? She was like, those are them out there. And I said, you didn't pick these up yesterday? And she was like, no, those are just from today. And I was like, no way. And then another DNR conservation officer came from the back and he was like, oh no, I picked those up personally yesterday. That is all from today. I was like, I couldn't believe it. We're
Yeah.
supposed to have a crazy pressure here in Michigan, and I'm able to kind of avoid it. Then you go somewhere else to get out of state and couldn't get away from it. But it was fun. We had a
See,
good time.
we did have a good time. You are like a diehard Michigan guy though, because I've been trying to pull you off of Michigan for a couple years. Ever since we met, I've been throwing invites out, and I was surprised I was able to get you this year.
It
I
took a
wish,
lot.
yeah, I wish it would have
Took a
turned
lot.
out better too, because I want to keep
Yeah.
having you go. But you are pretty diehard Michigan. You do care about Michigan heritage and the hunting here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Probably the most vocal person I know about it, actually. And that's a little bit of this conversation. I mean, I definitely want to have you back for a tactic conversation because I think there's a lot to go over there too with your hunt style and all that stuff. But this one we kind of pulled together kind of quickly because of a conversation or a little set of videos that you started to share on your story
Oh
on
yeah.
Instagram.
Oh
You
yes.
want to talk
Stirred
a
up a
little
little
bit about?
controversy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So um right now, and it just ended, I think, on the 31st, I think, is when they quit accepting applications. But our DNR decided that they were going to start a deer management initiative. Okay. Now, what that actually means, nobody really knows yet. I know what they've said. I've heard a couple conflicting stories. I've heard that APRs are up for debate. I've heard that more harvest total are up for debate. So there's quite a bit of confusion, I think, as to what is going on with that, and I don't have the answers to. What I do have the answers to is my personal experience that I deal with on Michigan public land, which I'm hunting probably 50 days a year, at least I'd say at least 50 sits, so quite a bit of hunting. I'm talking about scouting all year long, and I mean, I was just out yesterday, so quite a bit of time in the woods, and I have quite a bit of opinion that I've gathered on what's going on. Now, I'm not a biologist by any means. So I applied for this initiative to try to get a little bit better understanding about what's going on and try to get involved, because that's one thing that I'm pretty passionate about my hunting, and I want to be a part of this. And I've thought about starting something like this on my own with some ideas um, well before this came out. So when they introduced this, I was like, okay, it's a little bit to get my feet wet. Let me try to get in on this. Am I going to get selected? Probably not. I left quite a lengthy opinion, but I'm also open minded. So, yeah, I mean, there's just a lot up for debate in that. And I was on my way to work the other day, and I decided to kind of, I don't know, man. I'm in all these forums of these Michigan hunters, and I listen and I read all these things these guys say. And I started paying attention to all these comments. And man, it's like 95% of them are, yeah, I'm joining the initiative because I want to shoot what I want to shoot. I don't want anybody to tell me what I can do with my tag. I don't want to be told what I can and cannot do. And I just think that's the wrong attitude to have. So as I'm driving, I was like, you know what? Enough's enough. I just started ranting on Instagram, and I think I got enough friends that I got fried a little bit. I got quite a few DMs and people not agreeing with me, some agreeing with me. I say it's more positive than negative, but I think we're headed in the wrong direction. I think we're making a lot of mistakes, and I think it's all correctable. We just got to change our hunter mentality here, I think. So
Yeah, so I'm gonna start the shit show right off the bat. You
let's
made
go, man.
a you made a statement that I think if I can remember what it says, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were like, this whole idea that it's your tag, you can shoot what you want, that shit's gone, that's dead.
Yeah,
like
man.
like expand on that a little bit.
So I just think that it is your tag. You can shoot what you want because you're allowed to do that now, you know. But I think that where we're at right now in this state, I think we're at a real crossroads. Okay. Like I think we're at a serious like where do we go from here? We got so many does that the DNR is asking us to shoot more does this year. I mean, they wrote an article begging hunters to shoot more does. But then you got hunters that are passing on does and, they want to shoot bucks. But what's happening is we're just harvesting yearling bucks here. I mean, that's really what's going on. Most guys you talk to, you're like, what'd you harvest this year? Oh, I shot a big spike. That's kind of what you hear all the time. I shot a forkhorn or so I think we're at a real crossroads, and I think it's about time that we start to steer these people a little bit from I just want to do whatever the hell I want to do. It's my tag. I don't want to be told. I think it goes back to politics a little bit, where guys are starting to get a little bit political, and these people are biologists. Whether or not you have faith in the DNR, they have all the numbers, they have all the information, and we don't. So I think rather than be an enemy of these people, I think it's about time that we try to align with them, maybe learn a little bit from them and give them some opinions, and rather to just say, hey, I hate you. I want to do what I want to do. You guys aren't doing your job. There's only so many conservation officers in the state. And don't get me wrong, I'm not pro DNR by any means. I see a lot of room for improvement from my personal experience, but I don't blame them solely. I think that's a complete lack of education for hunters on what's actually going on in the woods.
So your statement is really interesting right now because there's some popular slogans going out and like on social media and stuff like that, like which is the whole like my tag, my deer,
Yep.
and the reason why I brought it up is because I think I know you well enough in that you're not saying this out of and correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, go ahead, come at it.
Yeah, go
But
ahead.
you're not coming out at this because you're just a trophy hunter. Like
No,
you're not telling people, hey, lay off of those year and a halves because I want to shoot a 150 in Michigan right now.
no,
I mean, it's
see,
about
that
quality.
it is about quality. And no, I'm not going to sit there and I'm not waiting for, 160. I'm not waiting for a booner to walk out in front of me every time. And that's not what we're looking for here. But when I'm saying that I'm in the woods and I'm seeing 20 plus spikes and fork horns a year, and then the next year I see 20 plus spikes and fork horns a year, and then everybody I see who's local to the areas that I hunt are harvesting yearling bucks, that's a pattern that we're going to keep repeating. I mean, that to me, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like a very basic principle to me. If you keep killing the yearling bucks, that's all you're ever going to have. So I'm not telling people to not harvest these things because I think if that could what gets you excited, I hate to take that enjoyment from people, but I think that we need to educate hunters a little bit, maybe on how to do a little bit better, how to progress as woodsmen, which all the knowledge is out there for these people to explore themselves. I didn't get to be, and I'm no, don't get me wrong, take this the wrong way. Like I'm nowhere, I'm nobody, but I didn't get to, kill some nicer deer than what the average guy in Michigan's doing by just going out there and sitting in the same ladder stand all the time. There is a process, an understanding of the woods that you have to understand before you can start getting on a little bit better deer. But what I'd love to see is some type of education program that the DNR comes out with. And then we talk about losing hunters. Well, how do we retain them? We're at a complete shift in where we are as sportsmen. The shift, which I actually seen a post today about it, but there's no stopping. Where the kids are now, the kids are on their phones, they're on social media. They're everything is glorified through social media. Whether you want to say that's the right thing or the wrong thing, it's void. It doesn't matter. That's where we're at right now. You got guys hunting for likes. Oh well, that's where we're at right now. So when you have kids just saying giant deer all the time, that's what they want to do. So how do you keep these kids introduced, to the woods? You need to make these opportunities available for people because we're losing hunters. And we allow these kids to come in Michigan and have a special youth hunt before the deer season. So they, before archery season starts, they get a crack at the biggest bucks on the property, unpressured, first time sit. Everybody knows that's your best chance to shoot a big buck. You put these kids on these big deer, they turn 16 and now they got to go out, put their big boy pants on in the woods. They're not seeing nothing like that. So that's discouraging, and I'm not trying to take that youth experience away from people. And I'm not even saying that we don't need a youth hunt. I enjoy the youth hunt. I think it's a good thing, but I think we need to give kids an unrestricted youth tag to use on whatever trips their trigger, whatever gets them excited. But I think as adults, I think once you get 16 years old and stuff like that, because the percentage of adult onset hunters like me and others, it's fairly lower. Most people are introduced to the woods by the time they're, it's kind of a thing you're taught in youth stages. So I think as you get older, you need to progress a little bit. And maybe we do need to rely on our biologist a little bit more in the numbers and see where that takes us for a little bit. What we're doing here, it's going to keep repeating the same pattern over and over again unless we don't try something. So maybe it's time we give them a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate a little bit. I mean, one thing, man, and I'm going to get fried for saying this. So I mean, I left the state back
Mm-hmm.
in 2008. I haven't really, I mean, I'll hunt here, I'll
Oh
dabble
yeah.
in it, but I'm not gonna put in all my time here because I know my odds are better outside of state. Now, this is where I'll get fried is that there's plenty of killers, you're one of them, who do get it done here. And there's other guys who will say, hey, we'll just put in the work and do it. Yeah, I get that. But for me, and I think for a lot of guys who are leaving, look, I've got limited amount of time. I've got a family of three. I'm super busy. I'm doing a lot of other things. that, some pertain to hunting, some don't. I have a lot of obligations. And so I've got, 2 weeks out of the year to go out, and I like to kill bigger bucks. Can I get
Yep.
it done in Michigan in that amount of time? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. But I'm going to play the odds, and I'm going to go to a place with, I know the caliber's better. That doesn't mean pressure's less. I mean, the story that you and I were talking about earlier. I don't know if Indiana is one of those states. I think Southern Indiana does give you different opportunity at bigger deer. But I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, I went to Indiana and I killed a 120 inch in the first half hour that I was there. The first time I went to
Hmm.
Indiana, and the pressure
And I
was,
seen a 120 and had a crack at a 120, but I thought
yeah,
I was going to do better. So
yeah,
it doesn't mean that the deer aren't there. I'm with
yeah.
you on that. Yeah.
And I know there, and the other argument that will come up is saying, well, Michigan does have big bucks. They are here. I know
Oh,
that
they
to
are.
be true too. You know that to
Hmm.
be true. But I also know that for a lot of people, to do the work that it takes to get in there, and kill those bucks in Michigan, it's not reasonable for a lot of us. And I'm sure people are going to have a ton of argument against that. But and what I'm not saying is, I'm also not saying easy, because what I do when I go out of state isn't easy either. I mean,
Yeah.
I put in a ton of work to get that done too. It's just, if I'm going to put in that much work, I want to stack the odds the best I can in my favor.
And I'm not mad at you.
Yeah.
What I said in my rant the other day, I just want to add this real quick, is it wasn't directed at you, but you do kind of fit, you
Yeah.
partially fit that bill, right? So I
Yep.
made a point that I said we need to retain hunters because I also feel like we're losing good hunters to out of state opportunities. Now, I know that you, like you just said, you want to stack your odds, right? You want to go out of state and give yourself the best chance that you have. Like I know you're one of the hardest scouting people that I know.
Mhm.
Maybe the hardest scouting hunter that I personally know. But I know that your hunting time during season
Yeah.
is limited most years.
Hmm.
So where you want to put your chips while you're scouting is probably in an area where you have the best chance to kill a bigger buck because that's what you want to do. Now, as a state, we're losing guys like you because I know that you hunt Michigan, but there's been multiple times where I've been at these local meetups, the Mobile Hunter Roadshow and the Mobile Hunters Expo, and I talk to guys that are like, "Man, you got to leave the state. I don't even buy tags here anymore. They just don't hunt Michigan."
Yeah.
And then you got guys that enjoy that and they like that. Well, maybe that does benefit me, but that's not. I don't agree with that. If we're managing deer to the point where guys are leaving for an opportunity, might be about time to start, taking a look at that because
Yeah.
then those guys aren't going to introduce their kids here either.
Yeah. And again, I think that what I hear from you on a regular basis is, I get to talk to you more, is the heritage piece.
Oh
One
yeah.
thing, like, you're a student of the game. What I know about you is that when you go out and you go hunting, you talk to the locals, you get to know them, you build
Yeah.
relationships with them. You told me about a guy that was a long time hunter who kind of showed you, some of his stuff when you went over to his house one time.
Oh yeah.
And you respect that heritage, you respect what Michigan has to offer. I mean, I'll double down on that and say, like, man, I would love to stay here. I think that the agriculture that we have here, the terrain that we have here, there's something for everybody. I mean, you can travel to different parts of the state and you're going to find really awesome adventures, but you're not going to find the opportunity at the Bucks, on limited
Hmm.
time either.
Oh yeah.
So, um, let me ask you this, because I saw a brief interaction with another podcaster who I respect. I'm not going to mention his name on here, but I do respect him. He was saying, "Hey, we don't want to attract anybody here. We already got enough people." And I enjoy the access that I'm getting. I Is that what you're trying to do? Are you trying to get more hunters to travel from out of state to come to Michigan with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But you know what? If we had such a great atmosphere here, I wouldn't be scared of that because at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I hunt my hunt and that's it. I mean, that's it. That's the bottom line. I hunt my hunt every year. I work my tail off and I get in the woods and I sit in my stands and I set my trees and whatever happens, happens. I wouldn't be scared if we get more hunters here. Not preferably the thing that I'm looking for, though.
Yeah, that's a hard one for me to swallow. I don't know, man, because we what do we have? 450,000 hunters in Michigan?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit lower than that this year, but
Starting to
I
drop a
think
little bit.
I think it's starting to drop a little bit.
So I'm going to ask you about your ideas, but I'm wondering, can anything work with that many hunters? I mean, it if we st with 450,000 or wherever that's at, that number, I mean, a lot of deer are going to die.
Hmm.
Um, One thing I don't know, and this is, I'm probably not the best person to facilitate this conversation. I just wanted to get it out there and get it started, and
Yeah.
so we can receive a bunch of hate mail. But
Yeah.
I
Oh, you
that's
should see my DMs, man.
we threw this together quickly because I saw it and I was just like, man, let's get something out there and get the conversation started, get more people involved. And honestly, if they're involved passionately, either way, it's just good that we're as hunters talking about what we care about and what we think, right?
100%. Yeah. And on that application that the DNR asked, they ask you to be open minded. I mean, that was a clear statement on there. Are you open minded to see both sides? Because they're asking, are you a hunter? Are you an anti hunter? Are you a non hunter but you support hunting? Are you a non hunter but you're anti hunting? All these things they ask you, and I think they're trying to put a serious panel together um, to get our opinion. So I don't know, man. I just got fried when I put that up, to be honest.
That the data, like what kind of stuff were you hearing?
There's just a lot of people, I think, that have a lot of different ideas. And I honestly feel that most of them trend the same way. If you get in a room full of guys, right? I'm talking a room full of hunters, a room full of avid deer hunters. Which one of them is going to say, you know what? I don't want to crack at a better buck.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to crack at a better buck. I think it's just this whole mentality of, we talk about Michigan tradition, right? It's brown, it's down. Back in the day, things were a little bit different. You had one buck for a while. You had um, different variations of doe tags for a while. So things haven't always been this way. But right now, for those that don't know, we are 2 buck state. We get 10 doe tags here in the lower peninsula. Upper peninsula is a little bit different. And guys, I think, are just of this notion because let's be real here. Deer hunters are men, right? Like we're like the last remaining men in this country. Most of us share very similar views on a lot of very similar things. And we're all hard headed, right? So most guys, whether or not they're trophy hunters, whether or not they're um, meat hunters, it doesn't matter. They're all gonna have the attitude of you're not gonna tell me what to do. That's just what it is. That's where all these different views are coming from. But very different views also kind of came about. Like I heard things like we need to shrink the DMU size, right? Absolutely. I think so too. Um, because where I see 10 does get taken is totally different from the northern lower peninsula, right? I mean, you get up by Traverse City, Grand Traverse County, and all over in that side of town, you can't take 10 does off of a property. That's asinine. Um, I hunt in an area and I bounce around the thumb of Michigan, so there's quite a few state land properties up there. One in particular, I've been hunting for a while. I've had a few years to break it down, and there's one bedding area where every night I can pretty much count on seeing 10 to 12 does. Bucks are hit and miss time of the year, but usually every night I'll see 10 to 12 does. It's far enough back where nobody disturbs them, usually, and you see the same group of does. And this year I was seeing about 5 or 6. So what I think is going on with this new 10 doe tag thing is I think that guys aren't really shooting the does on the public. Okay, this is just what I'm seeing because I'm here all the time, and I talk to these locals quite a bit. So what I think has happened on that particular property, and again, we're talking a small fraction of what's actually going on in the whole state, but this may be the same that other guys are seeing. I think what's happening is this piece of public is surrounded by farmland, right? It's surrounded all by ag, private. And guys that are familiar with Michigan know you don't drive to the next piece of property without seeing a shooting house on the property. There's a blind on every single piece of property when you get in ag country. And I think historically what's happened is hunters are so willing to reach out to their friends, to their family. Come on over, you can shoot a doe. Come on over, come on over. And I think what's happening is the guys on all the surrounding pieces are all taking these does when they leave this public and, last light. And I think that's starting to have an impact on some of the public lands. It's
Isn't
just
the
what I'm seeing. Again, that's what I'm seeing personally.
isn't the DNR saying that we need to shoot more does though?
The DNR is asking us to shoot more does, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not against shooting does at all. Um, not saying that's a bad thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm seeing that it's having an impact. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing 50% of the does gone that I've seen for the past 3 to 4 years, something is going on. And that's my best guess, other than, maybe we had a health issue, which
Mm-hmm.
I talked to multiple people and I haven't seen multiple farmers, that I haven't
Mm-hmm.
seen an issue with. So,
Do you think I think there's different subcultures of hunters, right?
mhm.
So
Yep.
I think there's people who look at this as like mastering a skill, and this is something that they go in and do, and it's more about the journey and the process, and then killing the buck at the end is kind of the icing on the cake. But it's more about like I'm going to call it more like a kind of like an art, you know.
Mhm.
And that's I would probably put myself in that category on some level.
Mhm.
I'd put you in that category. And a lot of these guys that
Absolutely.
we talk about as like top killers. But I also know there's another group which I have a lot of respect for, that do it differently, but it's more about community.
Absolutely.
It's more
Yep.
about getting together with it. And I'm starting to like wean into that. I'm starting to get there because I've hunted alone for so long. I mean, anybody like you and all the other guys, I'm throwing invites out all the time. Like, hey,
Oh yeah.
let's go out and go hunting.
Yeah.
Um, and that goes against a little bit of what we're about because we usually, we're lone riders and we go out and do that stuff. But I enjoy the community piece of it, and so for them, I think there's this idea of like, wait a second, man, I just want to get together with my people. I want to have a good time with them. And when I go out, like honestly, I don't care if it's a year and a half year old, and that brings joy to us. And so how how did those two groups come together, man? Like how is that going to be possible? Because I know some guys like that. They always have that mysterious like, man, if the big one comes by, but they don't want that's not their goal, man. They're as happy with they really are as happy with a year and a half year old buck or doe, you know.
Yeah.
How do we marry these ideas, man? These two groups together.
Man, that's a really good question. That's actually a very tough thing to answer.
Do you acknowledge that there's a group like that?
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. I talk to, you know, very probably the same people you do,
Hmm.
really close with a lot of these guys, talk to them all the time. And I get it.
Yep.
I do. I get it. I understand it. Um, the first buck I shot was not, anything to write home about, but it was my first buck and it made me happy, right? And you'll never get that joy back. So if these guys are, maybe they're experiencing that joy every single time. That's not me.
Hmm.
So who's right here?
Yeah, that's the
That's what you have to break down is, you know, who's right? Am I taking opportunity from them or are they taking opportunity from me? Now, you touched on something good where, me and you, we scout all year long, right?
hmm
This is almost an art form for us. I'm pretty much just splattering paint on the wall. I wouldn't call myself an artist, but I'm doing a lot of work. I'm trying
Mhm.
really hard to get on some good stuff. And I don't think necessarily that these people are going to affect me at all, you
Mhm.
know. But man, I feel like there's a lot of us out there that just don't talk. There's a lot of real killers out there that are getting on some really good deer that don't really say anything. They just this is what they do, this is what they love, and maybe they're older guys that don't have a platform to speak on, but we do, right? So who's right? Are you taking opportunity from me or am I stealing it from you? And I have to stand my stance because this is what I believe, because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, man, I could get out there and I could scout all summer long, right? And I could eat my tags and I'd be totally fine with that because I did get to spend 30, 40, 50 days in the woods, whatever it is. And I'm happy with that because I was throwing my bone in the fight every single night. Every time. No, there's no Hail Marys here, Like it may be a Hail Mary and a long shot, but I feel like I'm gonna have a shot, right? And they probably feel the same way. And there's really no good way to answer that question on
Mhm.
who's right, which is why I think in the end you need to be an ally of the conservation officers, an ally of the data, and try to figure out what's going on because we can go back and forth on this all day long. I don't know if you're ever on the Michigan Zone 2, Zone 3 hunters page.
Mhm.
Man, they bash. It's a Facebook page and they just bash horn hunters so bad, right? And I don't consider myself a horn hunter. I really don't. I want mature deer. I want the game, right? I want to play this all year long. And the way that these guys bash it, they're like, we'll never be Iowa. We'll never be more than Michigan. And that's their attitude. Well, I can promise you, I would bet anything I had on this that if you would put APRs or $1 steak, right? Anything, I'm talking just implement any change, there would be some change. Any little thing we do is going to do something here because for the past, since I've been hunting, we've had pretty much no rules here. I mean, yeah, your second buck can't be 4+ on one side. Oh, big deal. Oh, well. I mean, what the stats show that as of last year, and I haven't totally looked over them this year, I looked over the harvest numbers, but the stats show that only 6% of guys are taking $2 a year. So that's
Mhm.
6% of guys that use $2 tags. Come on. That's not, it's very small.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
imagine what those hunters are taking. I don't know, man. I just want to see just something, and I'm
I
willing to work with it.
yeah, I want to make something like I'm gonna advocate for you on this one here is that I don't think it's gonna make a difference if they change or not for you. You're still gonna go out and you're gonna kill good bucks.
I'm gonna do my best. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And it may not be every year because everybody, we all have those years that are tough. But
yeah.
overall, in your lifetime, it's really not going to slow you down a whole lot. You're not looking for easy.
No,
And where I might be, I'm talking about stacking the odds in my favor. It's okay. I'll say it. But I know you, and I know you're not looking for easy. If it's easy, you probably don't want it, actually.
no.
So I'm just going to reiterate that because people are going to say some things and I know who you are. You like doing this stuff the hard way. I mean, that's evident. That's part of the joy. I do too. I like scouting like that. But I do think we have a lot of like complex, issues to work through on these cultures. Because I do really respect the deer camp. I do really respect the community piece of it, even though I haven't been a part of it. I yearn for it more in my older age. Even though my voice keeps cracking during this podcast, I'm actually almost 50. But yeah, so it is going to be hard. Do you have some ideas? Do you have some things that you think would help?
Yeah. So, man, I'm gonna sound like everybody else right now. Okay, like I'm gonna just sound like a broken record. I think that we need to go to a statewide APR. Okay. I think that we need to go to 3+ on one side. I'm not saying we need to go to 4+, which I'm trying to throw a bone here. Be fair. That's my compromise. I think we need to go to 3+ on one side, and I think we need to go to an unrestricted youth tag to keep these kids from getting discouraged. Let them shoot whatever gets them excited. Okay, I'm all about getting the youth and keeping them out there. You may not see a 6 point in a weekend. Youth season's only a weekend. They can hunt all season long, but I think we need an unrestricted youth tag where they can shoot whatever they want. Kids can shoot a spike. I think we need to take muzzleloader season and put it back to muzzleloaders. This whole thing about use any legal firearm, which for those that guys out of state that don't know this, we have muzzleloader season this year was from December 2nd to December 11th, and you can use any legal firearm for that zone, which means straight wall cartridge, shotgun, whatever is legal in that zone. There's a few exceptions, but not many. And then your rifle season, which is November 15th through the 30th. So essentially, you're making a block of hunting with a rifle for a month long. And I know a lot of guys that are avid muzzleloader guys, that enjoy that classic traditional muzzleloader hunt. Think about what you took from them. So let's talk about fair here. These guys used to go out with their muzzleloaders every year, and then all of a sudden you got a guy next to you with the 350 Legend in his hand. Like, what are we taking from them? How does that make sense? And that I do see as a complete ball drop. That's a total fumble on the DNR's part. That's one of the few things that, like, I will totally look at the DNR and be like, you guys are really messing up here. You've taken a lot from a lot of guys that really enjoyed this hunt. That's huge. I would love to see our gun season pushed back a little bit. I would love that. But I think if somebody were to ask me my opinion today on what should be done, those would be my three things. Unrestricted youth tag, 3+ on one side, and muzzleloader season back to muzzleloaders.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't throw in the November 15th because you get burned at the stake for that one.
Oh my God,
that's a
I already know.
holiday. That's a holiday.
I know.
Yeah, the muzzleloader thing for me, I don't I feel bad. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot of like educated, opinion to add to this conversation because I have been going out of state for so much or for so long. But the muzzleloader piece, that's something I would love to do in Michigan, and I would shoot does with a muzzleloader. I only hunt with a bow. I don't rifle hunt. I did in the past, or shotgun hunt. But the muzzleloader piece to me, I really enjoyed going out there and doing that. And then, but I won't now, because of what you said. Like, somebody sitting next to me with a shotgun. And what I
Yeah,
experienced this year too is people pushing, during that time period, and was messing up our hunt like crazy. I mean, these guys were using a metal pipe, banging it against the tree and pushing deer and
yeah,
shooting at them.
yeah. You told me that. That was crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, even during that muzzleloader season, I think I told you it was right around the same weekend that you told me that. I had a couple guys walk past me in the cattails with an aluminum ladder on his shoulder. I'm standing out with my bow because, you know, this is first year I've strictly bow hunted. Usually I'll shoot my rifle a little bit, I'll take some does, and this year I just stayed with the bow the whole season. That season wasn't going the way I wanted it to, so I was like, no, I'm taking my bow. And man, I had a couple guys out in the cattails with the aluminum ladder in their hand, sitting out there in the cattails, and I was just like, this is crazy. Like the guy had a 450 Bushmaster. I could see it through my binos. I could see the little muzzle brake on it, and I know 350s don't have that. And I was just like, this is out of control. It's like December 4th. What the
Yeah.
hell?
I think what I hear in Michigan too, actually probably the reason why I say Michigan because I live there, right? It probably
Yeah.
happens in every state. Is a lot of opinion without any kind of like research
Hmm.
whatsoever. So, And probably maybe some opinion with research, but we have so many different opinions within our own community here in Michigan that it's really hard to make any kind of like progression. So one thing that you said was like you wanted the DNR to offer like an education course.
Hmm.
I mean, I think no matter what side of the fight you're on here, if you're trying to preserve your heritage and you want to, hey, it's your tag, it's your deer, or if you want to preserve a different heritage of, quality, more mature bucks, what you're asking everybody to do is educate yourself. Go out there and
Hmm.
learn as much as you can. Try to get involved in some of these forums if they're available. I think the least we can do as hunters here in Michigan, because I do really love, even though I'm leaving a lot of times and going out of state, what I do really love about Michigan is that there is a group of real passionate people here who love the outdoors. Um, there's this, I mean, I love it so much that I've actually told my wife, I said, hey, like when I die, I want you to play like that I Am a Michigan Man song in my funeral, you know? When I think of like some of my fondest memories, I wasn't even a hunter yet, but it was being a part of like the deer camps. Like I was as I was younger, I would wander through these deer camps in where I was at, and in my neighborhood and stuff like that. I knew guys who hunted and did all that stuff, and I loved hearing about it. And I used to watch, Michigan Out of Doors and watch Fred Trost and all of that and watch the Michigan Buck poll. And I loved everything that was a part of that. And I love that our state is like that. And we have a bunch of passionate people. I would love for us to educate ourselves so
I
we could
would too.
come up with some kind of compromise.
Yeah. So this is something I've really been thinking about, but I would love to see, how we get together at like our, Mobile Hunters Expo and things
Mhm.
of that nature. I would love to see an education where we pick out all these top sporting goods stores, right? That cater to deer hunters, that cater to bow hunters, and not trying to leave gun hunters out, but primarily your guys that hunt all season long are bow hunters, right?
Mhm.
So you want to get them into that, and you don't want them to just come out during gun season. You want to get guys in here that are going to hunt all season long, right? Like encourage that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with gun season, but encourage the all season hunter that just loves to be outside. And that I mean that's why I started bow hunting. It's like, you mean to tell me I can get out here a month and a half early if I pick up a bow? Went and bought a bow, you know. So encourage that. Tell these guys that. Um, put them together. Let's put some educational groups together at these sporting goods stores, man. Get a group going, a guys group. No offense to the ladies, but let's get a group together where we can all get together once a month, once every 3 months, quarterly, something like that, and educate people. Get somebody from the DNR here. Let's talk about things. Let's talk about this because what I see now is I go by my tag. The only time I see a DNR officer or talk to somebody is if I'm getting stopped to ask to see my tag. That's it. The one thing that I can respect is when I was in Indiana, the very first day, right? The very first day we were there, I pulled over on the side of the road because I just driving next to some state land and I happened to see a rub on the side of the road. I pulled over, I jumped out of my truck, one down in the valley, I'm looking, just I'm just on the hunt for a deer, right? Wasn't hunting, I had jeans on, might have had pajamas on. Excuse me. I don't remember, but I heard a car pull up. I come back over the berm. There's a DNR guy standing in my truck. Come down. I said, "What's going on?" He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm just looking at the land. I'm just checking things out. You can't hunt here. This is where you can hunt." He's just going down the motions, man. And then every check station, and I did appreciate at first, I was like, this is insane how I have to go check in where I want to hunt, because I have that mentality again of here we are. You're not going to tell me what to do. I don't want to tell you what I'm doing. We don't need to know, right? So I hated the check-in process. But the one good thing about it is I had a connection with the conservation officers when I was down there. and I get to talking to people, and the one guy brings me in the office and he prints me out the harvest report by area, how many hunters checked in. He provided me with all this information, and I was able to kind of, put a little plan together if I could. We need to know these people. We need to know who's supporting us, who's the biologists are. Any chance I get, if Chad Stewart posts something or does anything, man, if he does anything, I will listen to it. He's our biologist. Whether or not I agree with him or agree with the DNR, it's still my business what's going on, right? And that's our part as a deer hunter here. I
Yeah,
mean,
for
that's
sure.
that's our duty. You're a sportsman, man. You need to be involved.
Yep.
So
Yeah, so I mean, one thing about the Indiana check stations there too, I mean, if you looked on the wall, it's all about education. Like they were
100%.
yeah, it was awesome. And it was inviting. Um I didn't feel like I was like I'd done something wrong. Like a lot I remember growing up when here in Michigan and hunting, like I always felt like when the DNR came, even though I hadn't done nothing wrong,
They're gonna take my car.
yeah, I felt like I
Yeah.
did something wrong, you know? And I
Yeah.
was like, oh man, here we go. There I never felt that way. I always felt like it was warm and it was inviting. Their space actually was set up that way.
Yeah. Even
To
after I told them I was from Michigan,
yeah,
they didn't blink.
yep,
They
yeah.
didn't care. Yeah.
So you were you talking about antler point restriction.
Hmm.
And then I know that Pennsylvania has done that for like the
Uh,
last 20 years or so. I don't know how that's turned out for them. I don't know if they're getting better quality bucks or not.
hmm.
Maybe we can reach out to somebody that hunts over there and ask them
Talk to
how.
Moose, man. See what
Yeah,
Moose got to say.
I
Yeah.
should I should have I just talked to him. I should have brought that up.
Yeah.
But and then also, would you be open to going down to 1 buck?
Hesitantly, yes. Right.
But
Okay.
I guess it doesn't matter if only 6% of the people are actually harvesting both.
So that's where I'm at. That's my whole hesitation right there. It's like
Hmm.
we're talking 6% of hunters. And there was a guy the other day that commented on something, and because I left that comment, and he's like, I personally know 10 people that shot 2 bucks last year. 6% is way too low. Those 10 people, didn't report their deer.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
do your part as a hunter. Like, I'm willing to try this. I'm willing to try 1 buck state because that's me allowing something to happen.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to try anything that's going to keep hunters here, introduce a little bit of age class to the bucks here, and theoretically help the DNR out with the doe population that they're so called having issues with. If we have too many does, which, man, listen, I hear guys say they don't see does on public. I can't speak for the whole state, but if you're in my area and you don't see does every single sit, you got a problem. You 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 need to start thinking about yourself.
Yep.
And I know that it's not the same for every part of the state because I know I'll probably get fried for that state. But if you're where I'm at and you don't see a doe every single sit, or two, or three, or five, there's a problem. We can afford to lose some does.
Yeah, I'll say there's spots over here. I'm on the west side,
Mm-hmm.
where I'll sit and I won't see some,
Mm-hmm.
but not often. I'm not seeing, and I'm probably not seeing 5 or 6 does at the same time, but I'm at least seeing 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some days I sit where I don't see any though. It's not that
Well,
overrun here. But yeah, you're
we
right.
all
Like
have days,
you're gonna have an opportunity if you're not having a couple opportunities to shoot a doe throughout the season, then you're probably,
doing
either
something wrong.
you're doing something wrong. Yep, for
Yeah.
sure. Um, okay, if you can ask one thing of let's go with that heritage group, and one thing from the more like the wanting more mature bucks group, and maybe it's the same thing. You're asking, what do you want them to do right now? Like, what can they do right now to be a part of this or something.
If I could ask them anything,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the exact question that I would ask them. That how can we come to this resolution? What can you give up? And what can we give take here? Honestly, I would shove them all into a room and let them just fight it out until it's over. We got problems, man. We need to come to a conclusion. We got a lot of hunters that aren't happy here. I think we really do. I think we got a lot of people leaving. We got people driving 8, 10 hours to go to deer camp, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And there are times, I will be honest with you, that I'm walking to my tree stand and I'm disgusted by the hunters that we have here in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about this, man, fry me if you want, but we talk about this great hunting tradition that we have here in Michigan. And when I'm walking to my tree stand and walking out, I'm picking up beer cans. I'm picking up
Yeah.
blunt wraps. I'm picking up trash. I'm picking up this, that, and the other. I don't care what their opinion is because they don't care about the woods.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
that's another group. I wasn't going to bring it up because I think the ones that you're going to make the most progress with are the ethical heritage hunters who
Hmm.
maybe brown it's down,
Yeah.
but love this state and they're going to keep it clean, you know.
Yeah.
And then there's where I would put our camp, and then there is what I'll just try to call it slob hunters.
Slab hunters.
Yeah, who
Big problem.
who pollute, who disregard the environment, disregard conservation, disregard all of it,
But
and
here's what I see
the
is
animal.
you
They
can 100%,
Yeah,
but you can get those two groups together. You can get the deer camp guys together
yeah,
with the APR guys together, and I think we can come to a happy resolution. But you can't get the slob hunter in that room and have him come to agreement with anybody because he's just gonna shoot what he wants to shoot, gonna do what he wants to do, and you're not gonna tell him nothing because he's gonna take his 6 pack out to the stand and he's gonna sit in his climber with his crossbow. He's gonna shoot whatever he wants.
yeah. And I'll say it, like if that's who you are, you're not part of either one of these camps. Because the
Yeah,
guys I know aren't like that,
yeah.
that are part of that more heritage buck camp that's been here for a long time. The guys I grew up with, and one of the guys that mentored me was kind of a part of that, but he had a foot in both camps. But I know all the guys that he was with, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't pollute the ground and do all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. Yeah, that group just needs to go. Like we shouldn't entertain that group ever when we see them.
But
And
that's a whole nother thing. We have to acknowledge that they're here because if we're talking there's 450,000 people in this state, I find it hard to believe that there's 200,000 of me and you. If we're talking half of them are deer
Mhm.
camp and half of them are, of the work hard, scout, take big bucks, chase big bucks camp. I find it hard to believe that there's that many of me.
No,
I mean, I
no.
know there's some of us,
And
but
I
it's
think
not hundreds of thousands of us.
and I think that's where your fight actually has a little bit of a downfall is that there's a smaller group that's in that QDM type of focus. Um, but I think if I sat and talked to my friends who are more of that heritage group, they're going to say, "Look, I do want to see more deer. One, they want to see more deer, and they
Hmm.
want to see more quality deer. I do think they want that, and I think there are a group that's just happy with that six or that spike or whatever. And I don't want to take away from them, but I also think within that group, there's people who want a little bit bigger buck and would
Yeah,
appreciate that. And they don't have much time. They got 1 week a year and they got a lot going on, and they may not be as dedicated as we are into what we put into it, but they definitely love the woods. They love deer hunting.
yeah.
Um, and I think they want more quality. So I do think those groups, I think you can make some progress there.
Hmm.
They're going to get the advantage of it because there's more of them. And
Yeah.
I think you're okay with that, right? Like you're not
I'm
looking to get it all your way.
I'm fine with the compromise here. I
Hmm.
just want to do something to cater to both sides.
Hmm.
And if you do some type of APR, like a 3+ on one side, I think everybody benefits from this.
Are you saying three, including the brow tine?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. I would give you that 100%. What I'm saying is the whole purpose of APRs, right? Because I've listened to our biologist. His name's Chad Stewart. His statement for APRs is allowing 50% of yearling bucks to make it to the next year. Okay. Now I know we're gonna hear guys that are gonna be like, "Oh, he's just pro DNR and this, that, and the other." Man, you don't know me. Okay. But what I do understand is that Chad Stewart came from, this is why I give him a chance. This is why I listen, right? He came from Indiana. He was in Indiana when they went from a $2 state to a $1 state, and he saw the change that it made. And what I heard him say was that first year he had so much pushback from the hunters. But after year one, he had a little bit more support. After year two, they had a little bit more support. And then after a couple years, everybody was like, man, we're never going back. Deer
Mhm.
quality's way up. And that's just changing the mindset of hunters. And that's a lot of guys' argument with going to a $1 state is, well, maybe it'll change the mindset of the hunter. He'll be a little bit more selective. And we're past that point here. Okay. Like we have a, we have a clear, like a very clear perception of Michigan where guys know if you go to Michigan, you just shoot whatever. These guys are just killing whatever. That's how people look at us. And I don't really like that, man. I don't like being looked at like I'm less than.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
I, there's there's so many guys that talk about Michigan and it's like, but you're not from here. So you don't understand the potential that we could have, you know. There's a lot of potential here.
A ton, man.
There's so much public land here, a ton of ag, a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I've traveled to quite a few states and hunted a lot of states, and I
Hmm.
can't think of one that actually has the potential that Michigan does as far as, I don't know about, minerals in the, ground and
Yeah,
all that. But as far
yeah,
as terrain goes and the diversity here in the state, man, it's second to none, man. It's awesome.
yeah. Totally agree. And the comment that we'll never be a big buck state. That's not what I'm asking for. I'm asking for some compromise to make guys be a little bit more selective, or forced selection. I don't like being forced to doing anything either. That's not what this is about. We're not trying to do all that. All right. But we need to do something as sportsmen. I really think we do. And I think in turn, that even helps out with the DNR one, right? You got more hunters staying here. You got more guys that are going to shoot does for meat. It all comes full circle. It only makes sense to me, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is you're just looking for a little bit of improvement right now.
Absolutely.
Let's move that needle up, and then we'll argue about becoming a big buck state after we
I
make that
mean,
improvement.
we know there's big bucks here.
Yeah.
We know there's big bucks here. And whether we change anything, man, we go into next year and we got 10 doe tags and 2 buck tags like we did this year. I'm doing the same thing. I'm still trying to chase that 160. Like I'm still trying to chase a big deer here. Um, but I'm asking for a little bit that I think will go a long way. I'm not trying to be Mr. QDMA. I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm just ranting as a Michigan hunter on this is what I'm seeing and this is the improvement. Think about that. I seen over 2 dozen bucks this year, and I saw three that were shooter status.
Hmm.
Right? That's a pretty crazy statistic. That's a lot of bucks for, and I'm not I'm not nobody special, but I'd say I'm a little bit better than average on getting on deer.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure, man.
So
Yeah. So wrapping this thing up, um, what I'm asking everybody to do before you go on and comment, which I want people to comment, like when we post this on Instagram and Facebook, As far as it'll be a link to the podcast. Um, After you listen to this, you can go back and for sure write some comments in there. Do me a favor. Don't react right away. Just sit back and think about it. And maybe like Google some statistics and just kind of look
Yeah.
at it a little bit. And
Hmm.
then yeah, by all means, leave something, but
Yeah.
represent well, be educated and don't react just off of a feeling. If you're a slob hunter and you got your feelings hurt because you drink beer and all that kind of stuff, just don't listen to this podcast anyways, and don't follow me. And like I don't want nothing to do with you anyways. But if you're a
Drink
heritage,
beer in the stand. In the
yeah,
stand.
in the stand.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I definitely drink my beer when we're at
Yeah.
night, around
Yeah.
the fire. But
Me and
yeah,
Matt have been to quite a few little hole in the wall bars by now.
we have,
Yeah.
but not in the stand. And if you just disregard, the animal and the land that we're on, yeah, I don't want you following me anyways. I don't care what you have to say. But if you're a heritage guy and you're a brown and it's down guy, you're one of my people too. Um,
Absolutely.
and I want to hear from you, and we want to hear from you. And I don't have any answers, and I think Josh is just, he's just looking to get the conversation started and to get the state closer to a point that we know it can be. It can be a great
Absolutely.
state for everybody.
Yeah. And like you said, man, I know these guys, right? I know these heritage hunters. I've spent time in these guys' living rooms. I've
Yeah.
had plenty of conversations with these guys. One of the most impressive guys I've ever met. Like you said, I told you I went in his basement. He had 60, I don't know the exact number, but there were over 60 racks hanging in his basement. 80% of them, were not trophy antler size animals, right? This guy was hunting 80s and the 70s, he's going way back. But we're trying to have a conversation. And I'm not trying to impose my will on anybody. This is my experience. This is what I'm hoping for. I'm willing to have open conversation with people and hopefully come to a common resolution.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly.
That's awesome, man. And that's why I had you on, as I know your heart and I know what you're about, and I know that you're a big respect guy,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you respect the people that came before us, and I wanted you to be able to say what you had to say, and I want to try to support the conversation, and I got
Hmm.
it's a little podcast, but if I can do something to support that, I definitely want to. So hopefully people listen to this will start talking about it more and educate themselves. And I'm going to do the same, man. Like I said, I don't feel like I have a whole lot to bring to this conversation. I'm going to go out and I'm going to educate myself more and try to advocate for the state more too. Even though I'm
Yeah,
going out of state, man, I love this state. And
yeah,
I'd love to hunt down the road more, and,
yeah.
with my old ass, I'm gonna have to at some point. So
Yeah. Well, man, anytime you want to come hunt with me, you can sleep next to me in the parking spot. You're good to go,
yeah, man, I'll be out there for sure. We do got to hook up and do that hunt.
man.
All right, brother. So I'm gonna have you back because this is not I don't this is the people ask to have you on this podcast, and I think it's more about tactics and all that kind of stuff. So we're definitely gonna do that. This was an emergency podcast to get the message out and get people
Yeah.
talking. And I'm gonna post this up. Man, I don't even know what's today. Tomorrow's the 7th is a Wednesday. I'm gonna do it the following Wednesday after that. So it's gonna be up real soon. And yeah, we'll see where it goes.
All right, man. Let's do it.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on this and listening to this podcast, everyone. Hopefully you stuck to the end and you will be a part of this process. And yeah, leave some messages. We want to see what you guys have to say about it for sure. We don't think that either one of us have the hold on this and know exactly what's right. So Josh is asking for conversation. Let's get this thing moving.
Let's
Appreciate it,
open up.
Josh. Yeah,
All
man.
right, man.
All right. See you, everybody.